مشاهدينا مرحبا بكم في حوارات السياق. السعودية مرورا بقطر وانتهاء بالإمارات، محطات خليجية ثلاث توقف عندها قطار الرئيس التركي رجب طيب أردوغان ليزود اقتصاد بلاده بالدعم المالي والاستثماري. للمزيد من المتابعة ينضم إلينا من أنقرة البروفيسور مراد أصلان، كبير الباحثين في مؤسسة سيتا وأستاذ السياسات الدولية بجامعة حسن كاليونجو. بروفيسور مراد، مرحبا بك معنا.
Thank you so much.
ما كلمة السر وراء زيارة أردوغان للخليج؟
There has been a long normalization period with Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates that took almost 2 or 3 years. And today it has been achieved. And the latest visit indicate that we have to pass another level. It's what investment cooperating, not only in terms of economy, but also politics, and build up an environment that will further the interests of both states. So that's why Erdogan is really keen on developing the relations and build up maybe an environment that will create a further scale of cooperation. For instance, an access to the markets of both countries with a freedom of navigation, for instance, in the coming year. So this visit is specific in terms of increasing the degree of interconnectedness.
كيف تقيم نتائج الزيارة حتى الآن؟
Well, first of all, visiting all three countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Emirates, well, it's just like chain because he wants to build up an, shared common understanding between the countries, taking Turkey as the hub of relations. We know that there's a traditional competition between the countries. Now we witness another competition between Saudis and Emirates. Turkey started first with Saudi Arabia, just because of, if you draw a line from Turkey to the Gulf, it's the first stop. And then went to the other states in the region. So I think it's not about, prioritizing one against another, but just to engage with all with a, prominence to build up business relations, economic interaction. And we must also observe the global developments, especially having China directly engaging with the Gulf region. So that's why Turkey is insistent on being included to the Gulf politics, and Saudi Arabia is the first stop, and that's normal.
هل هذا يعني أن العلاقات التركية الخليجية عادت إلى سابق عهدها؟
Well, if you take state-to-state relations, we have no room for emotions, because all states, at the end of the day, play for their interests, and if an event must be forgotten, then they do it. And exactly what we are experiencing now is this mood. Think that if Turkey feels excluded from the Gulf politics, well, there are a lot going over there, and you will be a subject of what's happening right now. But just remember what happened to Qatar when isolated. Turkey played first a mediation role, not challenged the states. But Turkey had to decide on something then. So the logic of Turkey is still to be stick with this mediation position. If there happens a sort of disagreement between the countries in the region, on the other hand, Turkey wants to position itself to a sort of chair that Turkey may benefit from the relations in the region.
الرئيس التركي أعرب عن أمله في أن تصب زيارته إلى الإمارات والسعودية وقطر في الاستقرار الإقليمي. كيف ستنعكس الزيارة على الاستقرار الإقليمي؟ ما الذي يمكن أن يقدمه أردوغان لدول الخليج؟
I think we have some parameters that we have to be stick with. The first one is that we all are Muslim countries. And if there happens a problem, that means we need a solidarity. I mean, if you expect some others, like the United States, China, or any other, like the Great Britain in 18 to 1900s, for instance, well, the basic logic is to realize the pure interests of their countries, ignoring exactly the culture and sometimes exploiting the competition. So what Turkey wants in here is, in terms of regional stability, as Muslim countries, we have to resolve our misunderstandings, we have to limit our miscalculations, and if there happens a problem, either Jeddah, either Ankara, or maybe Doha, or Dubai, it doesn't matter, it may be a perfect ground to talk and exchange views. And then we can proceed much more easily. And by the way, if any country just observes the politics, I think there's something missing. Any state on the globe is concerned with their budgets and treasures. And once there happens a political incompatibility, mainly in the Gulf region, well, it will have a cost in the budgets of the regional powers, but it will expand the costs, the budgets of the others by either through, defense sales or, playing with the prices of the energy resources, etc. So Turkey wants to be included to regional politics. By that way, Turkey may contribute shaping the politics with a solidarity in the region.
لكن في المقابل هناك من يرى تناقضا بين أفعال تركيا وتصريحاتها. أردوغان مثلا أكد على هامش زيارته للسعودية أن بلاده لن تخرج من شمال سوريا، مع أنه في وقت سابق أكد على أنه يريد إعادة تطبيع العلاقة مع دمشق. هل ترى تناقضا هنا؟
Well, there happens a revolution over there since 2011. And 14 million Syrians are now deprived of their basic rights. They are either IDP, displaced person in Syria, mainly at the north, or Idlib, or in the neighboring countries or Europe. Well, there is a normalization period with Assad, especially by the encouragement of Dubai and Saudis. That's a fact. And Turkey started another initiative in Moscow, another fact. But Turkey does have conditions. First of all, Turkey does have two objectives pursued, especially in normalizing with Assad. The first one is countering terrorism, because there are gaps in terms of sovereignty of Syria at the north, and terrorist networks, not only PKK, but also Daesh, feels this gray zone. And second thing, there must be a safe return of refugees to Syria, but the only condition for this, especially for Syrians, is a safe and secure environment, and they don't want Assad. So there must be specific guarantees for Syrians to have a safe return on voluntary basis and honorable. So Turkish strategy against Assad is very clear. If you pursue a strategy, a democratic transition under the umbrella of Geneva process, Turkey is happy with this. Otherwise, I don't have any hope of normalizing with Assad.
هل عودة أردوغان إلى سياسة صفر المشاكل جاءت نتيجة الأزمة الاقتصادية، أم أنه توجه جديد للسياسة التركية في الحقبة الأخيرة من حكم الرئيس التركي؟
Well, economy is something beyond my expertise, though. I may just offer my comment by observing what happened in Turkey right after COVID outbreak. There was a great shrink of economy. There was no production. And in the meantime, there was an expected global economic crisis. And what Erdogan did was to reduce the interest rates, and by that way, encouraged businessmen to have loans from the banks with low interests, and in the meantime, continue to produce the commodities. Why? Because once he could increase the interest rates, there could be no investment, and it means unemployment. So what Erdogan achieved was actually to have a reduced degree of unemployment that prevented also a social unrest in Turkey. On the other hand, it does have limits. Right after the elections, because it could have a political price actually, right after the elections, Erdogan selected the appropriate persons to govern the Turkish economy, and now they are pursuing an orthodox economic policy. So in this picture, I think Erdogan was stuck to manage the existing crisis to some extent, and now pursuing a long-term project. So we have to wait and see the outcomes. I think there are two things should be observed. The first one is the history for the last 2 decades in Turkey, because there were some attempts to change Erdogan government, especially by the hands of Western Western governments. In 2012 and 13, there was a coup attempt by the hands of judges and prosecutors. And just prior to that, there was a societal upheaval. In 2015, PKK was really active in the downtowns at the southeast. And in 2016, there was a coup attempt. So there was a lacking trust towards the West. And once there happened a revolution in Syria, what Turkey proposed to the United States and Europe was to act together actively, and they refused. And there were some, escalations regarding defense procurements. For instance, the US had refused to sell Patriots, and Turkey had to buy S-400s. These are the facts. And now, what Turkey started to, do? Well, Turkey started a self-help system with no dependency to the West, but searched for an independence, which is a strategic autonomy. On the other hand, the Western accusation was a probable shift of axis of Erdogan towards China and Russia, but it was not the fact. For instance, when Russian aggression started to Ukraine, well, it was first Turkey with no hesitation providing UAVs and ammunition to Ukrainian defense forces. And the Europeans spared at least 2 months to deliver adequate level of ammunition. And Turkish aircrafts were also in Ukrainian territory for logistical purposes, and they could not leave Ukraine. That means if Russia had to withdraw from Kiev at the very earliest phase, it was because of the Turkish military support to Ukraine. But it indicates another issue. Turkey is stuck to a new mood of foreign policy. If you are cooperating with Russia to resolve an incompatibility, for instance, in Libya or Syria, it doesn't mean that you will fight. Because it's only Turkey, right after the Cold War, who, just pulled the trigger to Russian soldiers. Turkey both fought against Russia and negotiated with Russia. And that's why the new mood of foreign policy is first to compartmentalize the relations, disregarding disputes. You can negotiate and fight in the meantime. If the Russian actions are not favoring Turkish interests, you can challenge. Well, for the United States, if you ask me the resonance of Erdogan and Biden and Trump and Obama, it's about action and reaction process. Why? Once the US acts unfavoring Turkish interests, for instance, providing support to PKK, the reaction of Turkey was to what? Challenge the United States. And now Erdogan is in a phase to fix this relation, but we will see if there will be an achievement or not, because the US must give up to providing support to PKK for a normalization.
في السنوات الأخيرة انتقد الرئيس التركي لتغيير مواقفه من ملفات عدة، ما يدفعني للتساؤل هنا، هل هو شريك موثوق به؟
Well, changing position or shifting of axis, I would prefer to using the word flexibility. the new foreign policy requires a great flexibility. Why? Because we are living in a globalized and very dynamic world. Once you perceive any actor as friend, it may be a competitor in short run. And you have to adapt yourself. That's the reality. That's the prerequisite of the new foreign policy. But changing position is something that, well, you can't rely on, you can't trust. I don't believe that. Please just check the French position towards China right now. They are challenging China under the roof of European Union and perceived it as what? Competitor. And Macron says we can't compete with China for the sake of having good relations with the United States. And the Germany is on the same page. And because they are flexible, once they see that there's a hope over there, well, they are advancing. That's the issue.
بروفيسور مراد أصلان، شكرا جزيلا لك للمشاركة معنا في حوارات السياق. مشاهدينا، شكرا على طيب المتابعة. إلى الملتقى.